Hello and welcome to this Oracle Database World session on automated patching and compliance to improve database security with Enterprise Manager. My name is Martin Pena and I'm a Senior Director of Product Management here at Oracle in California. And joining me from our product management team is Harish Nidagata, who's also in the product management team for Oracle Enterprise Manager. Let me go through a bit of the agenda before we get started. I'm going to do a bit of an intro talking about giving you an introduction to our database lifecycle management solutions, also talking about database patching and compliance challenges. After that introduction, I'll turn it over to Harish, who's going to talk about how to patch at scale with our fleet maintenance solution, and also talk about how you can secure databases and enforce compliance with IT policies. We'll then conclude with some resources and next steps. So let me get started first by talking a bit about database lifecycle management. So hopefully you're familiar with Enterprise Manager itself. And as you know, it has various management packs that provide specific functionality. So Database Lifecycle Management Pack is the solution that provides the capabilities we show here. Really, it's a very broad set of solutions around database management designed to help DBAs automate their day-to-day tasks. And as the name database lifecycle implies, it's really about the entire lifecycle of the database itself. So we start first with provisioning and cloning. We provide tools for the DBA to provide automated, repeatable, and scheduled deployment of various database configurations. And so this includes all the standard database configurations that you're familiar with, including single instance, rack, and multi-tenant databases, both on-premise and in certain cases in cloud environments. We also provide an end-to-end solution to help you clone databases, whether this be full clones or thin clones. And these can also include masked production databases. So cloning is an area we can help you with your automation as well. Moving through the lifecycle, the next step is really about patching and upgrades. And this is going to be the focus of our discussion today. And with database lifecycle management, we include a feature called fleet maintenance, which enables you to automatically patch and upgrade large number of databases with minimal downtime. And so again, we'll go into more detail later. And then the third tier of this database lifecycle management solution is about configuration and compliance. And this is really how we can use Enterprise Manager to help you collect metrics and then monitor the configurations, detect misconfigurations, and even apply corrective actions to comply and reduce security risks. So this includes configurations not only at the database tier, but also across host, engineered systems, and even other Oracle products and third-party products. So really, this is a very valuable tool to help you harden your systems from a security perspective. So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that we see customers running against when doing database patching and trying to enforce compliance across these systems. So the first area that we'll look at is really about the challenge of unpatched systems. And really systems that are not patched up to date, especially with security patches, increase the risk of breaches. So oftentimes, when security patches are available, the patches are not applied. And this can be because of different operational issues, not having enough time for a maintenance window to bring the system down to patch it, not having the necessary bandwidth to run the patching cycle, or even understanding which patches are available. So these are all some challenges related to patching systems. And what we see is that 21% of security breaches were due to unpatched assets. So this is an important area to focus on. The second area is around configuration sprawl. And the issue here is that lack of configuration standardization can increase the complexity of the patching cycle. So for any automation to work, whether it's automation through your own scripts or automation through a tool like Enterprise Manager and Lifecycle Management, Having standardization makes the automation more successful and easier to deploy. Manual patching is error-prone and time-consuming. So really what we want to do is use configuration management to be able to identify sprawl and bring our targets under standardization. And this is really going to help the process itself. So the lesson here is that homegrown scripts can increase the maintenance costs, especially associated with patching. And our third area is about insecure configurations. So misconfiguration and insecure configuration changes are preferred ways for bad actors to exploit and get hold of sensitive data. So really what you want to be able to do is make sure that your systems are configured properly, whether that's based on industry standards or your own best practices. So having a tool that is able to identify misconfigurations can be very useful from this perspective. And we see here that 45% of breaches were due to misconfigurations. So again, a very important area to look into. So now that we've talked about some of these challenges, how can Enterprise Manager and Database Lifecycle Management in particular help you with these areas? And really what we see is through the ops automation that Database Lifecycle Management provides, we can provide a couple of key areas for security hardening. So the first one is around enhancing the patch and upgrade automation. So as you can see on the diagram here, with DBLM, what we do is we help you identify missing patches through a direct connection to My Oracle Support, MOS. We can help you put together patch plans associated with those plans based on your actual inventory of databases. We can help you build the gold images of the Oracle homes that are needed for that patching process, and then actually help you with the application of those patches. With the latest versions of Enterprise Manager, we've introduced some great new features. Some of those include a new user interface that helps you to patch and upgrade entire databases, your entire database fleet, including grid infrastructure. We also provide an intelligent interface to assist in tracking of operations at every step and provide actionable insights. So this is going to help the DBA team really understand what's going on with the patching process, identify any issues, remediate those, and then continue through the process. And then another very useful feature is a built-in library of pre-checks to help you improve reliability and diagnosability during the patching process. So those are the areas that we focus on with patching or our fleet maintenance solution. The second focus here is around compliance. And with compliance for configuration, we basically look at your inventory, look at the configuration metrics. We help you detect violations. We help you auto-remediate, and then we help you apply a secure configuration across these different targets. And so with the latest versions of Enterprise Manager, we've provided updated compliance framework tracks and enforce security on different targets. So you can see here a couple of the new compliance standards that we've introduced, new compliance standards for Oracle Database 19c, CIS, Center for Internet Security, STIG from the Department of Defense, HIPAA, PCI, etc. We also provide best practices from Oracle itself in terms of how different databases should be configured properly. So for instance, for Exadata, we support ExaCheck. So these are all important compliance frameworks and standards that are incorporated into the product, enabling you to pick and choose what you'd like to do. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Harish so he can go ahead and drill down into each one of these solutions separately. Go ahead, Harish.
Thanks, Martin. Now that you have high-level insight into the capabilities of Database Lifecycle Management Pack, let's drill down into patching and compliance management to secure your database assets. Fleet maintenance enables you to automate patching at scale. It reduces overall downtime and it enhances security posture by ensuring all security patches are applied and achieves compliance with your IT security policies. In addition to CLI and REST APIs available for patching, you can now perform patching activities from the brand new user interface using a simple intuitive process that guides you through setting up and performing all patching tasks for your database assets. Using this UI, you can track various operations at every step. That also gives you an actionable insight for you to act on. There are built-in pre-checks to ensure your patching is deterministic, it's reliable, and it is easily diagnosable. Fleet maintenance supports patching single instance database, multi-tenant databases, both CDBs and PDBs, rack configurations, grid infrastructure, and Shia homes. You can patch these database assets with or without data guard configurations too. And it can be done on various platforms, including Exadata engineered systems. Administrators who have the responsibility of patching these databases can maintain a versioned set of database images for various supported platforms that can be used for effective patching. With this new user interface, you can schedule the entire patching operation in one flow. You can deploy the software, you can migrate the listener, and you can update the database. This gives you the convenience of scheduling all three operations in one flow. In order to enable maximum patching automation, if you want certain maintenance activities to be done for each database target, you can create pre and post scripts. You can customize it based on your requirements. Once you have finalized the pre and post scripts, ensure to upload these as Enterprise Manager software library entity before you can use them during fleet operations. You can run these customized scripts during fleet deploy, update, cleanup, or rollback operations. Once you have provided the required credentials, you have customized the pre and post scripts, and all other required options are in place for patching, you are ready now for a quick validation of the patching task. You can easily track, fix, pause, and resume fleet maintenance operations directly from the Enterprise Manager user interface. As a result of this, you get greater oversight and control of all your fleet operations. And thus, it enables you to reduce the overall time to recover from any patching issues. Now that you have insight into fleet maintenance capabilities, including its brand new user interface, let's look at how you can use this to apply security patches to your identified databases. One of the primary reasons for you to patch your targets is to keep those secure. As and when Oracle publishes critical patch updates, CPUs, every quarter, you want to make sure these are applied on all targets in a timely manner. Now, how do you know what patches are missing in each of these targets? It becomes very challenging to identify the targets that have missing these patches, especially when you have thousands of targets in your data center. Enterprise Manager ships a standard called security recommendations out of the box with MOS connectivity in place and relevant targets associated to this security recommendations. You will be able to see list of all missing patches for a given target. Any target reported non-compliant implies there are missing patches that Oracle has already published for a CVE, but your target is not yet patched. You can review the compliance evaluation report to identify missing security patches for a given database target. The compliance report calls out precise patch numbers missing in a specific target for you to plan out a patching activity. Once you have identified these missing security patches, you can use fleet maintenance workflow to apply these patches. You can apply the patches in 3 easy steps using fleet maintenance. You create a gold image from the reference environment with all the required patches in place. You subscribe the impacted or non-compliant targets to this gold image. Update the target with these new patches to make it compliant. By using this out-of-the-box security recommendations standard and fleet maintenance workflow, you are essentially ensuring all the missing patches are applied on each of those targets, and you're hence reducing the risk of data breaches for those patches that are published in relation to the CVEs. If you have deployed multi-tenant databases in your environment, you can patch both CDB and PDB to be compliant with certain patch levels. Or you can upgrade to newer version of the database. You have an option to patch or upgrade as an administrator, or you can enable self-service user to patch their respective databases in a window that is convenient for them. If you have deployed third-party orchestration tools, you can use fleet maintenance REST APIs to integrate with those and do the fleet operations via those third-party orchestration tools. There are 2 ways to patch or upgrade multi-tenant ecosystem as an administrator. One, you patch a container database and its pluggable databases together. You patch a CDB and each and every PDB within that CDB will get patched automatically. So from an administrator point of view, and also from a maintenance downtime point of view, the overall patching effort reduces tangibly. But there are instances where you want better control of patching or upgrading PDBs. You may have the need to patch one PDB that is in a unique CDB, or you may have the need to upgrade that PDB and move it to another CDB. Fleet maintenance gives you that capability where you can choose the specific PDB and patch it independently by relocating them to a new CDB running from a patched Oracle home. Now that you have patched all your databases, how do you go about securing the databases and enforcing compliance with your IT security policies? How do you ensure relevant restrictions are in place for each user so that the principles of least privilege is in place for all users? You may wonder why this is important for you. It helps you secure databases and infrastructure. It eliminates vulnerabilities. You can generate security report for auditing purposes to ensure it's compliant with your IT security policies. And it reduces the overall DBA time by ensuring the databases are always compliant with the policies that you have defined. In case there are any violations, you can automate the remediation of those violations for continuous assessment. Securing an Oracle database is much like securing any other system. You're essentially protecting your data. That could be your intellectual property, your financial data, your personal data about your customers, or a combination of any of these. Because data is valuable, you need to guard against theft and misuse. You need to safeguard that data with security controls that restrict access according to your policy by using either industry standard benchmarks or your own custom policies. Enterprise Manager supports CIS benchmark and stick standards out of the box for all database targets. It supports all target types, single instance, cluster, and multi-tenant databases. Multi-tenant databases includes both CDBs and PDBs. Enterprise Manager also supports Oracle's own set of security best practices and recommendations. Each of these standards provide a set of compliance checks for various components of the database. Whether you want to do a compliance check on just the database parameters, or you want to monitor the user privileges, or you want to do more broader checks, there are compliance rules available to do each of these. In addition to these out-of-the-box rules, you can, if you need to customize it, you can customize these rules to align with your requirements, or you can create a brand new rule set that aligns with your security policies. With these out-of-box standards, you can essentially secure, detect, and remediate all of your database assets. There are unique security controls spread across various areas like user access and restrictions, database parameter settings, database connectivity and login related areas, and auditing system activities. For example, you can monitor privileges to DBA users, or you can monitor access to the users, or you can audit various types of privileges for users of all database target types supported. You can have notifications for each violations configured. You can review those violations, and you can manually remediate those violations. If you prefer, you can leverage corrective actions to automatically remediate any violations whenever that occurs. While securing database configuration is important, it's also critical to secure the underlying hosts. Now, let's look at what is available for Linux hosts so that you can leverage these standards for protecting your infrastructure. Enterprise Manager supports SCAP framework for Linux hosts by leveraging open SCAP engine that is available in each of the Linux hosts. Standards like PCI DSS, HIPAA, and STIG are supported out of the box for both Linux 7 and Linux 8 versions. So if you are in the healthcare segment and you want to secure your Linux environment to be HIPAA compliant, you can leverage this out of the box standard. On similar lines, if you are in financial or retail segment, you can leverage PCI DSS to secure Linux hosts. Now, if you look at each rule in PCI DSS or HIPAA or other supported SCAP standards, you will find almost all of these rules are cross-referenced with rules in other standards like ISO 27001, CIS controls, CJIS security policy, COBIT framework, critical infrastructure cybersecurity, etc. Large set of rules are exactly the same across each of these standards. So if you're looking, for example, say COBIT framework support, You will likely see many rules are already supported in Enterprise Manager as part of this SCAP standards support. If there are any unsupported rules, using the Enterprise Manager compliance framework, you can create a new custom rule to plug in those unsupported rules and create a custom standard encompassing all these rules, and you can start monitoring the compliance of various Linux hosts. Finally, for Linux hosts, if there are any other standards that you might be interested in, as long as these standards are in XCCDF format, you can import it into EM compliance framework and use it just like any other compliance standard. By leveraging out-of-box standards for both databases and hosts, you can put in place security controls to secure and monitor the configuration of both databases and its underlying Linux hosts. Depending on your IT security team's compliance recommendations, you can use available standards, whether it is STIC standard or CIS for database 19C or pluggable database targets, or you can customize your own standards. Once you have this in place, you essentially have all required security controls for each of the database assets in your database, in your data center. On similar lines, depending on your IT security team's compliance recommendations, you can bring in host-specific standards also into compliance by leveraging standards like HIPAA, PCI DSS, or STIG, or create your own custom standard. With this, you have the required security controls in place for each of the database targets and each of the host assets in your data center, and thus reducing the risk of exposure. With all relevant security controls for each asset in place, Enterprise Manager will be ready to start doing compliance assessment on a regular basis. It can detect any security violations. If you have set up automatic remediation, it will, as and when the violation happens, there will be an auto remediation process that will kick in. You can look at the compliance report to ensure each of your targets are in adherence with your compliance requirements. You can also provide these reports to your auditors for their own auditing to make sure that your data center assets are compliant with the policies that are defined by your IT security policies team. Leveraging patching and compliance capabilities in Enterprise Manager's database lifecycle management pack, you can identify missing security patches, apply these patches onto all of your database targets, and finally, monitor for your IT's security compliance with the primary goal of increasing the overall security posture of your data center. Finally, here are some resources available for you to learn more about fleet maintenance and compliance management using Enterprise Manager. There are few videos and also a comprehensive set of documents that shows you why and how you can secure your assets. Thank you.